Things might get weird.
Yeah.
Welcome to our life. She's so cute.
She is cute.
Kids. Gotta love them.
Kids.
Keep us on our toes.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Hewlett House Podcast. We're redoing this episode.
Hopefully for your benefit.
For everybody's benefit. We're still going to cover the same things that we covered the first time we tried to record this. But it's...
in a less painful manner.
Yeah, hopefully a lot better audio, a lot better flow. And, yeah, we're still getting a hold of this. So we actually don't have time for all these recordings. But we're going to do our best and stay on task. Stay on, by we, I mean me.
Yeah, because I'm always on task.
Yeah, you are. At least you're good at focusing. I got 100 things going on in my head all at the same time. And I'm like trying to talk, and I'm like, yep.
That happens in your head?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It sucks.
That's crazy.
Brain farts.
Fart.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm actually kind of glad we're doing this today, by the way, because I feel like the last couple we've recorded, I've either had they've come after really long days of work.
Yeah.
And this is a little earlier in the day. And I haven't fully lost my brain yet. So this is
we get full brain Hayden today?
Mostly, yeah.
You guys,
yeah.
Listen.
This is as good as it gets.
You guys are lucky.
Okay, not really, but yeah, at least it's not at the end of a Saturday where I've
worked all week.
Yeah, or month.
And
we were just talking about how it's been a crazy.
Yeah.
Not to jump into that, but we've had over a month of 6 or 7 days a week, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row now.
Of you working hard, but also the kids had stuff.
Yeah, it was either work or activities for soccer or choir performances or end of school stuff or tryouts for new things next year for school already. And
yeah,
one cool thing that you should tell is our little last minute adventure to Arizona to the Great Wolf Lodge in Scottsdale over our spring break here.
We knew that this last month, I mean, everybody has the last month of school is crazy. They try and pack seriously a full year of stuff. I don't know why we do this, but all the last of the year things happen. And so it's always crazy. So we knew that was coming. We had spring break and we weren't going to do anything, but we're like, you know what? We need to take the kids to do something fun. You and I had gone on a couple different vacations and individually and together, but we just hadn't taken the kids to do something or to do anything. Mm-hmm. So we were talking to Hayden's aunt and uncle, and I was telling them, hey, they were looking for something to do with their kids. And so I was like, you guys should try this. And so she looks up the Great Wolf Lodge. I told her she should try and see what the prices were for that or whatever. And she looks it up and she was like, Jess, they are so cheap. I'm all, hey, should we go? Should we just do it? And we did, and we regret nothing.
Yeah, it was great.
It was we decided the day or two before, and we went.
Yeah. I feel like it was a little oversold, I'll be honest. I didn't know what to expect, and we would do it again. Well, the nicest thing about it
was the best experience ever.
Yeah, we left on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
And got back on a Saturday? Or did we leave Tuesday?
No. Oh. No.
We were there
Wednesday.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I felt like we were there 3 days. Or maybe part of the day Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyway, 2 or 3 days, full days there was plenty, at least for us and our kids. And we didn't even have to leave the place. They had... the pricing was actually really good compared to what we thought we would spend. It was half of another trip that we just did as a couple's trip this year. Went to Vegas, and that trip cost twice as much as this one did with all the family to go. And the pool and the food and hotel, everything was there. All the staff was actually really nice.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they so nice? I'm like, they're probably trained to not beat children.
Oh.
And
you probably have to go through some grueling
patience
training.
Patience training. Yeah.
Seriously. It's intense.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was really great.
We loved it. But we knew all that was coming. But what we didn't know, guys, what we didn't know was coming was the flu.
Yeah.
In May. What's that?
Yeah, April to May.
Yeah, end of April to May. Oh, and Taft's birthday was in there too. So that was fun. But yeah, the flu hit, and most of us did okay. Like it was a 24, 48 hour type thing. Mm-hmm. But poor little Gwendolyn.
All of our 4 kids got it worse than we did.
Yeah.
You and me didn't even end up throwing up.
Yeah, I didn't actually do anything. I just had like stomach cramps and it hurt.
Yeah. And then Jack stayed home from school, didn't puke, but Maddie, Taft, Gwen. Taft got sick a couple times or no?
Yeah, he had it and then stopped and then had it again.
Yeah. And as soon as Gwen we thought was getting better, she would puke again.
Yeah.
And the diarrhea.
Like 2 weeks. It was on and off puking. And the diarrhea was on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Do you know the part in Parks and Rec where the guy is really sick, where they all get the cold or the flu bug? What's his name in real life? What's his actual name? Oh my heck. He's like the pretty boy in Dumb and Dumber. Or not Dumb and Dumber, Black Sheep or Tommy Boy.
Oh yeah.
I'm all over the place. But anyway, oh my gosh, I can picture him. Anyway, he's in it and is looking in the mirror and is talking, giving himself a pep talk, and he's like, "Stop pooping." He's sweating.
He's wasn't he in the hospital or something too? And he's just "Stop it." Yeah. That's poor Gwen.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yeah. It's never been that bad in the
parenting's
3 years.
rough, but
man,
we just keep on keeping on.
Poor thing. Yeah.
I know, you felt so bad for her.
She's on the mend.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yep.
Awesome possum. Well, we just wanted to, I'm going to jump right in now, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And I felt like I needed to clarify a couple of things. The first one is I talked about how I grew up in a household that was a little rough, and we swore a little bit and listened to crazy music, but we all went to church. There were just things that we found were, I don't know, we did family night and youth activities and all the church stuff, but there were definitely families that were worse than us and definitely families that were a lot better at the whole, checking the boxes things they did that just were a higher level than us. So when it came to church stuff, but my mom was never a cursor. So I'm here to defend you, Mom, before I forget. To get Pam to swear was a feat. You have to get her quite angry. Yeah,
it was your fault if you got her to.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If Pam swore, you knew you were in trouble. And then also the wooden spoon. If the wooden spoon ever came out, which was pretty rare, but I did have a few of those broken over my legs, and probably not enough, to be honest. But yeah, I love you, Mom. I'm sorry. Feel free to beat me anytime. I deserve it. So you probably should have done it more.
It's justifying to know as a parent later in life when your kids admit, no, you're right. You may have not felt good about that, but you're right. You're right to have done that.
Yeah. Well, and then I started to kind of talk about this, but there's all those quotes, right, about anytime you go through something hard, you learn who your friends are. And that was really true for us and for me through the whole little faith journey thing. You get people that are just rolling their eyes at you and you're just trying to figure it out and whatever. But we kind of made mention of this, but I'm usually, just in my search for answers, I felt like I had to talk to people or my head would explode. Go ahead.
No. Hold still.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear that?
I can hear you going in and out on the microphone.
Oh, you can? Sorry. Thank you.
It's hello.
I'm dusting off the desk. It's a little dusty in front of me. Anyway, I talked to my dad early on and he was really cool about it. I just said, hey, I'm having a lot of questions and some issues and whatever. And he's like, I'd be careful who you talk to that stuff, talk about that stuff to. Be careful who you mention it to. And it was really great advice, even though now I'm here doing a podcast about it. But
it was good advice, but sorry, Dad.
This is different though, because I'm not on here being like this and this.
I'm just teasing.
But that was actually really good advice that I heeded to later, after it was a little too late, but not really. And I think we eventually got to a place where we just realized that, hey, we got to deal with this on our own the people that we know that have read this stuff or can handle this, like we can talk to them, but it's not for everybody to know, mainly because so we're not, one, bringing up issues to them in their lives that they didn't know about or whatever, or hashing things out that they're not ready for. And two, because it was our deal and we just needed to work through it, you know? And I remember kind of feeling like my head was going to explode if I didn't talk to somebody and trying to get answers or whatever. And we actually remembered a night, we had some family over for New Year's Eve.
Wow.
And brought it up and had a big spiel about it. And
it was like the worst night ever. Like literally the worst night.
Yeah. And
let's just say Hewlett's have one volume.
Yeah.
And it's pretty high. Which is awesome because like high energy, so fun. Everybody's having a good time all the time.
Yeah. But when the tone changes and they're angry, it wasn't that bad.
Then it's a different decibel.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that bad. I couldn't even talk to anybody.
Yeah, I got a little heated. There was only a handful of us here too, which was pretty funny. But
there was like 6 maybe people in the conversation, and nobody else could talk.
Yeah, I remember at one point I was the only one on my side, and then there were like 4, whatever you want to call them, defenders of the church or with the truth or whatever, right? And so I was bringing up the issues, and they were talking to me and asking questions, and it got a little heated, and so much so that even one of my family members was like, that was kind of against, I don't know, in the debate, that was against me in the debate, like said,
like
hold
it was
on,
you
Hayden,
against everybody else, but which was
Hayden's
like
getting
fair.
cornered. Hold on, because I think he saw me being like starting to lose my mind a little bit. And anyway, so he brought it back around, and
nobody was wrong in it though. I want to put that out there. Like everybody was just defending themselves and their belief, which is great.
Yeah,
it was the level.
Yeah. It was about that time that I think I started to learn, like, you know what? I needed to listen to my dad and probably just talk about this with people that know what I'm studying a little bit more. Not even, that.
Yeah, no, it was really hard for me. I don't do confrontation super well.
Yeah. And it didn't start that way, but it never does. It's just like, it just escalates.
But I was crying by the end of the night, and I was like, this is the worst ever. This needs to never happen again.
I don't remember you crying. I'm sorry.
I totally did.
Yeah. In front of everybody?
I'm not sure. I just remember it being like so awful, and I just like went to bed and was
just cry alone. Crying. Nobody wants to see you cry. So do it in like a dark room when everybody's asleep. Sorry. All right, let it out. Go ahead. Cry right now. Do it.
There's so many issues.
Yeah. Right now, I could probably just sit here and break out into cry.
we just
have a crying contest. You're a dork.
We just full blown start bawling.
Have a contest to see who was the first that could start crying.
I win.
Whatever. Are you really?
No.
You're a spaz.
So good.
Are you crying right now? No. I can't do this anymore.
I'm laughing.
I need someone to take my place on the Hewlett House podcast. I made it 4.5 episodes. This is perfect.
Oh my goodness.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So those were two things I thought I should bring up. Yeah, Jess isn't crying, everybody.
Just so we know, to clarify.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to kind of clarify, what's tough is because I think as I'm processing all this, like talking about it firsthand, this really is just my experience, right? And then I try as much as I can without taking 10 hours of time just to say, I know there are so many different perspectives, especially after doing what I did and just trying to read everything and go down the rabbit holes of all the crazy historical stuff or whatever subject or whatever it was I was studying, right?
Yeah.
But so just know that there's still a lot of things that we're working on and working through, and we'll try to touch on those and let you know things that we haven't figured out yet. Like one of them is our kids. Like we're still trying to figure out like the balance of how much do we teach our kids and how soon, and well, because they've been raised and are the exact great little people that we've raised them up to be, especially as far as the church goes, like Maddie being young women's president, and then you have wayward dad that's just, struggling with aspects of it, of my faith, and I can't imagine like if my parents had fallen, I don't know, out of belief in the church when I was their age or as a younger kid, like it would have really wrecked my world, I think, Because
it's so encompassing. It's like we like are literally telling them these are the steps of what you need to do, and then like right as they're at the pivotal moment of, okay, I'm going to start these steps,
Yeah.
They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We're changing the steps.
And for the record, we went to both hours of church yesterday, and I went with you, and
yes,
it was great, actually.
No, it was really good.
It was my least favorite meeting of the month. Somehow in the third week of May, wasn't it? The third Sunday we had.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the conferences and changes coming in our stake or something anyway.
Because we're supposed to have
I'm like,
young men, young women, second and fourth.
Yeah, I attracted that one.
And anyway, and we switched it up because of Ward Conference.
Yeah, anyway. It wasn't too bad though.
We made it through. Yeah. I know I came back and found you. You were still chatting it up in the...
Yeah, the people are great, just for the record. It's just some of the stuff with the church that I have a hard time with,
So, well, let's just like throw it out. Like you...
Yeah.
You are in a spot where like you don't necessarily believe everything. And so but you'll come and support us. Come to church, like mainly to help me during sacrament.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, mostly. It's just so you don't have to go to church with 4 kids by yourself. It's just to kind of, like if I can go to sacrament and then if it's Sunday school, I'll usually try and hang out with you and go to class. But if it's like going to different meetings, then I'll just, instead of going to elders quorum, I'll just zip home.
Sneak out.
And all the other kids are in their classes. And it's just taking them home after that. So
yeah. So
it was good.
He's good to help that
sometimes. Way. Yeah, it can be better, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
but anyway, I just want to kind of preface that. I think everybody kind of gets it, but it's me just overanalyzing, worrying that I'm sharing something, and that because I'm sharing it the way that I'm sharing it, that's the way it is, and it's not. But this is just my perspective and our process with it all. So,
and this is not like 100% the way everybody should do it. This is just how it's worked for us.
Yeah.
Or not the right way for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's going through the same situation.
Yeah, and kind of with that, there's, I think when I talked about like being in alignment with yourself and how that can help you, the church is what I leaned on my whole life to be honest, I probably leaned on the church too much. And as crazy as that sounds, like to me, there was no difference between like the church and God. God was leading the church. Christ was leading the church. We had a prophet who had keys and all these things. And now I look at it a lot differently. But because I leaned on it so much, I think that's why it was a little bit hurtful when I read some of the stuff that I read and hadn't realized I'd come across it sooner or whatever. But, as I've like stepped back from it and been able to kind of really reassess my values and my goals, I've learned that most of them are all the same.
Yeah.
But even just being in I guess the field of work that I'm in, being a real estate agent, we're constantly talking about like personal growth, personal development, relationships, spirituality, so believe it or not, family, God. Gary Keller, that runs the company, the brokerage that I work for, is a Christian as far as I know. He really values God and family, and it's interesting to see, like, and I think everybody kind of gets this in the church, but you have like the 7 Habits, the Coveys that wrote the 7 Habits that are LDS, and there's a lot of the good things in the church work, like what Christ taught works, because I think that he taught around a lot of universal laws that just make sense, like don't kill anyone and you'll have peace and happiness and have a shot at heaven or whatever, right? But I think it took me kind of stepping back. To back up, to go back to what I was saying is, I think it's unhealthy to really prioritize anything in your life too much. Like I wouldn't want you to have your whole life depend on me, as flattering as that might be to me. Because if I am ever gone one day, I don't want your whole life to fall apart because I'm not here. Like we all have to be self-sufficient to some degree.
Okay. And
I think I was leaning on the church too much for a lot of fulfillment in too many areas of life, I guess.
Okay.
When it can help in a lot of different ways, but it was there for my spirituality, right?
But it was like a make or break for you. Like you're like, it's either all this way. Oops.
Yeah, I almost just felt like if I wasn't paying my tithing, if I wasn't checking these boxes, I wasn't going to be blessed.
Yeah.
And literally, this is how I looked at life forever. Like, if something bad happened, it must be because I wasn't living a certain way and I wasn't doing something right, or I needed to be doing something better. When in reality, in the words of Forrest Gump, shit happens, right? Like, it just does. And so stepping back from that in that little personal development class and the other ones I do, I have a business coach and all that cool stuff. A lot of it lines up with what the church teaches too. Like, it really does. There's just these principles that make sense and help us become better people. And I guess it took stepping back for me to realize, like, hey, just because I step back, yeah, there's things that I naturally have and I value. And then there's things that I wish I valued more, you know? But
you have to figure out what the value is or your focus, and then do the things that align to go to that. Is that what you're saying with alignment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I value honesty, I'm not going to be happy as a drug dealer, regardless of how much money it makes me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I value love and friendships. Like, and I think most drug dealers are probably, I don't know, everybody's different, right?
They might be super happy.
They're probably stoked.
Who are you to say?
At some point, you just kind of like lose your conscience, I guess, if you do the wrong thing long enough. But, and maybe not though. But yeah, I just think that I was putting the church ahead of myself when I should have been putting myself first and really working on myself. And I don't know really how to make this all make sense other than to just say that I was putting the church and everything so far in front of everything and everyone else in my life that I wasn't ever feeling totally fulfilled. And then when it took me to kind of step back and pray, meditate, journal, and really look inside, even though I felt like I did some of that, but really, really dig deep. And if it really comes down to one thing, I think it's asking questions. Like that is the biggest thing. Like, why? But you can only do that if you recognize that you're not feeling totally aligned. And what was a trip was, I think life gets this way for all of us from time to time, but there was just like so much that I wasn't feeling fulfilled, but I was checking all the right boxes and doing all the right things, but wasn't feeling whole at the same time. So just to kind of sum it all up, if we're ever living our lives in a way that doesn't align with our values and who we are at our core, I think it's really tough or impossible for us to really feel totally fulfilled.
Yeah.
Like, what is your end goal? Where do you want to end up? And are you living your life each day, each week, each month, each year in a way that allows you to reach that end goal? And are you fixing things and realigning your goals and who you are along the way to be better? Does that all make sense and come together a little nicer?
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud? Does it make any sense at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or do we need to start over again?
No, we're good. Just mainly your idea is you felt like you weren't in alignment with who you were and who maybe even
God wanted
you to be.
Yeah.
And so it made you reassess. Going through all this, it made you reassess and really focus and hone in on, who am I? Who does he want me to be? And what are the things that are going to get me there?
Yeah.
And in your studies, it didn't necessarily, for you, it didn't necessarily mean the church was your path to get you to who you wanted and who God wanted you to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's weird is I never thought that like Hayden 10 years ago, if he heard this, he would like lose his mind probably.
Yeah.
But I never thought it would take like taking a step back and really if I don't go to church every Sunday, I feel okay about that.
Or before maybe you didn't.
Yeah. And there's just things that like I do a little differently now. I'm not a big, I don't know, not to make this confession podcast, but Jess is telling me to hurry. Never mind. I'm done.
You're just talking yourself around it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, let's keep talking about some of the things that like we learned through this. Some good, bad, ugly. We talked about how we had that blow up and we learned to kind of take a step back and not share everything. We didn't have to share everything because it wasn't necessary. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes it just burst bubbles and you wasn't great, right?
Yep.
When I first started, or you first started, and I asked for an action plan. Mm-hmm. And the action plan that came to me, the advice that was given me is to just love you through it. And that was the best advice I could have had, because it helped me as we were going through to more emotionally invest into you, as opposed to always feeling like we were butting heads on the spiritual topics, right?
Yeah.
And more take and look at you, okay, emotionally, how is this affecting him?
Yeah.
Instead of just being on the defense all the time. And I think in turn with that, it actually made us closer.
Yeah. Which we talked about, yeah.
Which in this situation, it could definitely tear you further apart.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously that helped, but I think we took it a step further too, and we prioritized our relationship.
Yeah.
What did we do to do that?
We went on weekly dates.
Yeah.
That's what you want to talk about, right?
Yeah. We definitely, at times, because you were just starting your new job and everything, and starting that grind, it can financially be rough.
No, I think this actually is an important point, because I think we in anybody's life, everybody gets so busy that in relationships and marriage, we've learned after 15 years that you do have to work on them. And that was the one thing you were really good about, making sure we were going on a weekly date and checking in. And we weren't always perfect about it, but we did go and do a weekly date. And
more than not, we did, right?
Yeah, probably.
We went more than we missed.
And they weren't always fun.
No, they weren't. But it was good because it got us away from the kids so that we could have time to discuss some of the hard things. And I remember going home and we were both fuming at each other sometimes.
Yeah, I remember dreading going on dates because I was like, I don't know that I have the energy to go through this tonight and hash it out. And sometimes we didn't even go with those intentions, and it would just turn out that way. We'd get talking about it, and it was so easy to bring up that it was just like what came up. And
yeah,
especially when I was a little more on the angry stage, I was just like, yeah. My tone and attitude was not the best, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. Well, it was, like you said, it's all part of the process and a part of like the emotions that go, the emotional roller coaster that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
So, and there were definitely conversations that we had to have, and things that like we worried. I mean, like you said, we worried about the kids. We worried about what are we doing? How is it affecting them? What we talk about. I remember having conversations about making sure that like, you're like, can I talk to him about some of this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but like, let's land somewhere with how you're really feeling on this topic. 'Cause everything was still so fluid, 'cause you were still studying so much. Right.
Yeah. Well, there's even a time that we haven't even talked about where I went through it. I kind of did the whole cycle thing and then found my way back right about the time Jack got baptized. Mm. And then I held in there for a few more months, and then I just couldn't. It just wasn't for me, and it hasn't been for me for now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was like I was just like shocked, crazy. It was this whole, I don't know, probably close to a year-long cycle at that point. By the time he got baptized, and I had studied and kind of came back, and then I was just kind of like, it's the washing machine.
No, I'm just thinking, because that was like, you're going through it and he was 8. I was thinking it was only like you've been doing it for a few years.
Is he 11 now?
Yeah.
So it was 3 years ago he got baptized? That is crazy to think about.
Anyway, that was nuts.
Yeah, so it started when he was like 7, I guess. 7 years old, like Taft's age. And now he's 11.
Guys.
It's crazy.
The last few years.
But yeah, I really thought I had it all worked out, kind of a nuanced perspective for me, like a faithful way to still make it work. And then it it was kind of weird how it just kind of puttered out for me. Didn't last very long, but yeah, and we've kind of been in the same stage. You guys continue to go hold callings, and
at first
I even had one for a while. I had a calling.
Oh yeah,
I taught Sunday school.
But then COVID happened.
Oh yeah,
and then it just kind of gave you the out to be like, yeah, I'm good to not anymore.
Yeah, I enjoyed not going too much.
Yeah,
I do enjoy going sometimes. By the way,
yeah,
like, I don't want to act like I. Totally
well, no, even after the lesson yesterday, you're like, oh, that's funny. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, there are times. I think it depends on the subject and what we're talking about.
Like, yeah.
Anything Bible and I can probably handle better than Doctrine and Covenants or something, I guess.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard because we went through all of this. We're trying to figure out, what do you do with the kids? These are all things I'm sure everybody that's going through our situation goes through. One of the other things, and one of the reasons why we kind of wanted to do this is like, you feel like you don't want to talk to anybody because like we had that experience that we talked about New Year's Eve where you don't want to talk to anybody because you don't want to burst bubbles. You don't want anybody to be worried about you either. Like for me, I didn't want people to be worried about me. And so I wouldn't say anything to anybody because I didn't want them to worry. And I finally got to a place where I could kind of like talk about it and be like, yeah, but it's okay. Like I promise it's okay. But I didn't really tell anybody how I was feeling. Because I don't want to cause drama.
Yeah.
Or chaos.
And I think we were still trying to process it all at the same time too. And so
hadn't really landed anywhere.
One, I don't want to pop any bubbles or tell people what we're going through because I don't want to have to explain everything to them. Not just because like everybody has their own problems and I don't know how to explain to them how I actually need help. And I can't talk to them about this because there's probably issues in here they're not aware of and I don't want to hurt their faith or hurt their spirituality either. And it was just, that's what I think is so crazy about people going through this type of an issue. I don't know, maybe there's lots of issues that are like it, but this one's really unique, I guess, because of where we live.
And and that's the thing too, is like it may be a totally different situation if we didn't or wasn't so encompassing in every day. Yeah. And everybody that we come in contact with, because everybody or majority of people around us are LDS.
Well, in the end, how is it going to affect our kids at school if their parents find out that Maddie's dad is having questions or whatever?
Yeah, and to be fair, like the kids worry about that too.
Yeah,
right. Like we've asked them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I don't say anything." But yeah.
Well, they're can of worms.
Yeah, and the thing is, so like I used to be worried about going to church, and I'm like, oh, without you,
Yeah.
And just me and the kids and people. I was like, oh yeah, everybody's probably looking at me like, okay, she's here, and oh, poor thing without her husband here. And really, I never felt that way. Like poor me, whatever. I never felt like I was, because I didn't look at like you're not coming because you not coming wasn't about me.
Yeah.
So I never felt like it was like to hurt me.
Yeah.
But I sat there and I was projecting my insecurities, I guess, on other people. And I think that's really what it is it's just when we're worrying about this stuff, it's like we're projecting our insecurity here to other people. And like if you brought up the point, you're like, yeah, but if you were talking to your friend about this, like what would they tell you?
Yeah.
This is you projecting,
Yeah.
But in the moment, you're just like, you worry about it. So that was kind of hard. But then I finally actually came and thought, it didn't take very many weeks, but I sat there and I was like, I am not going to church for them.
Yeah.
This is about me coming for me. So stop worrying about what you think other people are thinking when they probably weren't thinking anything.
Yeah.
And be here for what you're here for. So that was a major hurdle that I overcame.
And that's advice you would have given to any friend that came to you with if they had the same issues. So I think exactly kind of you're giving yourself that pep talk. Like,
yeah.
You're just telling yourself what you know and why you're there. And it's for you and for the kids, you know?
Yeah. And so it came to a point, though, that I was like, so in my head, we weren't talking to anybody. I was so worried about all of these things that we just talked about that I was like, I just need to have a third party, unbiased party that I can just, because some things I didn't even want to talk to you about because I worried about hurting you or letting you in on like some things that I was concerned about because, I was trying to be the support at that time. That was my job, is to love you and be the support. And so I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to let some of this out so that I don't go crazy.
Yeah.
And so I went to seek therapy, but then that was hard because then I'm in my head, okay, do I want an LDS therapist? Because then they can sympathize with like how big of a deal this is. Do I want a non-LDS therapist? Because what if the LDS therapist is just like, yeah, this is a huge deal and you're not going to be an eternal family. So you need to either decide if you want to be an eternal family or leave them. And I'm like, that's not the answer that I got from God. That was going to be the case. So I didn't want somebody like telling me that. So then I worried about that. And then I worried about somebody that was non-LDS being not enough. Or I didn't want a guy because I didn't want to, you know what I mean? It was just like this vicious cycle of, and then I got so overwhelmed that I just wouldn't for months. I wouldn't even go. And then I finally went and it just didn't work out. But it was a vicious cycle. Even trying to find somebody to just talk to that I thought, oh, the third party biased person, even finding that was hard.
Yeah.
So.
Super hard. Because you don't want to find someone that's too hardcore of a believer that is going to try to tell you answers that you've already figured out on your own.
Yeah.
And maybe the best advice would be to find an eternal partner that you can be so good.
I told you this.
Someone that understands you, understands women, can just help. Get a good guy that can really walk you through some stuff. Maybe you could help me.
You want to be...
But, yeah.
You want to be... Oh.
Way to go.
Sorry.
Way to go. Rookie mistake on a
big time rookie mistake.
Yeah, there was one other thought I had with what you were saying. Oh yeah, and then you don't want to find someone that's become a counselor either that has like been hardcore in the church. Then they are like anti and like total on the other end trying to like validate you too much either. You just want someone that can be middle of the road that can help, you know.
Yeah.
At least that's what I would have wanted, and it sounds like that's what you were looking for,
too. Yeah, that's what I was, too, but it was... Anyway, but I have since learned that there are people that can help. I found, like, Dr. Julie Hanks or whatever on Instagram, and just hearing some of her things, I'm like, oh, okay. They do exist, I guess.
You can do research on them, and maybe it's just to find a good Christian one that doesn't have a religion they're going to try to baptize you in and just can kind of hear you out and understand where you've been.
Yeah.
What's not to tangent, but there's other people that have left other religions that are high demand, similar to ours. And their leaving story is very similar to what we go through when you kind of go into a state of disbelief with your specific religion. It's fascinating, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think of that like Leah Remini. I think it's Leah Remini that left Scientology. She has like a Netflix documentary out even right now and everything. And I've listened to her on other podcasts and yeah, it's another high demand religion that expects a lot out of its people. And they have like we say ours is sacred, but then they have, I don't know what they call theirs, but they have stuff they don't tell the public and all that stuff too, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that spirituality is like a continual journey. I don't think we're ever done with a spiritual journey. And so I think, I don't know, this is another lesson that I've learned is that we are continually working to figure out who we want to be and who God wants us to be. And that is something that is never done.
Yeah.
And so
I think progress and growth is never done, but I think we can find out who we are and who we want to be And then even that can mold over time. But I understand the point you're trying to make.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And I think that comes back
the
to
lessons that we've learned like 10 years ago, or the things that we understood about God and Christ 10 years ago. I think going through this, we've learned, and not even, like you'll have lessons or conference talks or whatever, if you're in the church, that will teach you a greater understanding of certain things. So that's what I'm saying is that, like, you're constantly learning.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly reframing the belief. And I think that's kind of like why, in a sense, everybody's, to me, I'm like, well, aren't we all kind of in a mixed faith journey or mixed faith marriage? Because I've had confirmed to me certain aspects of God and Christ confirmed in a different way than you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so our faith and I don't know, it can be different.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, like you might believe in some things a little more strongly and differently than I do, even though we both go and believe in the same church and religion.
Yeah.
What's interesting is how I think that is with everybody in the church, but then there seems to be this like imaginary line that you can't cross until you're like considered really an outcast. Like there's this, and what's funny is if you have conversations with people at church and conversations with those same people outside of church, you might get different answers from them on how they really feel about a subject. And at least in the conversations I've had, there's a lot of like off the path thought processes about things, but I don't, like, to me, it doesn't matter. It's their belief and how they look at it. And it gives me a new perspective and a way to look at something too. And something I can adopt or let go.
And I think a lot of people are starting to not look so black and white as opposed to before. I think I don't think that this is like a special to us situation. I think a lot of people are
for sure
going through some of this, which is why
a lot of people hate that. Out. Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of members that it is black and white and this is the way it is. And but that, at least my studies, from what I gathered, it's life. The more it goes on and the older I get, the less I'm confident in my knowledge ability, number one, and what I really know. And I feel like there is a lot of nuance in life. Like, crap happens to good people and bad people. And sometimes it seems to happen, like, good stuff seems to happen to people that don't deserve it. It's just life. Yeah. But maybe they've lived their life a certain way. They've lived a certain law, whether it's hard work or diligence or dedication, that they obtain that,
Yeah. Well, and I think that being like in the depths of it, or being challenged on our spirituality, or where we really are, is where we really like have to dig in. And it's not easy, but where we have to dig in and really have the refiner's fire of, okay, like your whole journey, it's like you really digging in deep and showing Heavenly Father and Jesus, like, this is who I am. This is who I think you want me to be. Yeah. And
well, it's funny too, because I don't know, at least I'm sure this happens all over the place, but just even me, I know it at some point or another, like I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I feel like in a lot of ways, whether we realize it or not, sometimes we're trying to trick God. And what I mean by that is we're checking we're trying to hit all the check boxes so we can go to church and smile at everybody and pretend like we're living this perfect life. But on the other hand, like, not realizing that God really, like, if he really exists and Christ is really there, like, if God's your creator, he knows you.
Yeah.
He gets you.
For sure.
So if you're going to just think you're just sit over here and bullshit everybody on one side, and God doesn't see your heart and know where you're really at. And that's one of the challenges of life, right? Like, trying to live life to be like God, but be genuine and do it in the best way that we can.
Yeah. Do it from wanting to please him.
Yeah.
Not wanting to please everybody else. Right.
Yeah. Or even just for me, it's almost like, for sure, like, yeah, he's your creator, like, show gratitude by being who you think he would want you to be, but also be the person that you expect yourself to be.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all have.
Well, I think he wants us to be happy. So I think that they're one and
for sure.
One and the same.
Yeah. So do good, and good, like whatever we put out in the world comes back to us, whether it's good or bad, I think. And I think a lot of it just comes down to, again, like I talked about in the beginning, like ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Like, are you asking, are you recognizing how you're feeling about something? And then are you asking questions about it? And I think that's like when I talked about asking the right questions, that like I question everything in life, like a career. I try to call people if I ever change jobs or I do anything in life that's a big decision. I try to look at all the angles and see, you know, what is it that I could be missing here?
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to start a new business or whatever, like what are the pros and the cons? Give me the list here. Is it worth it? What are the challenges? Is that going to be worth it if I jump in, all the work or whatever, you know? And the irony, at least for me, like I felt like I was, again, this is one of those things that's like, this was me, how I felt personally, but I never felt like I could ever question the church in an unfaithful way. Like I never felt like it could, like it was always just pray, read until you feel like it's true. There was never like, have you ever asked God if it's not true?
Yeah.
And then what would you do if that were the case? And I'm not saying everybody should do that, but like if you feel like you should, then maybe you should follow a little bit of your intuition and listen to yourself a little bit more. And I guess that's what I've kind of learned in this, is that I do question everything. And I do give people a lot of times the benefit of the doubt, and don't try not to argue with people, because maybe that's their truth and maybe that's something I can learn from it. And a lot of times I just listen and try to process it, you know?
Yeah.
And then ask the questions later. But it's kind of funny because literally every first lesson, I think it was every first lesson that we ever taught everybody in the mission, we always brought up that scripture, James 1:5. Like, read, or you can ask God anything and he's not going to get upset at you for asking him a sincere question, right? And I think that's okay. Like question things. He wants you, like that's how we learn and grow.
Yeah.
Have
he wants
goals,
you to grow.
like,
he wants you to learn. He wants you to.
Yeah, maybe we should cut out the first 15 minutes of what I said and just say that. Like, I think that is a huge, like that scripture means way more to me today than it ever did in the 2 years on my mission. Yeah. You know, like that's actually a really cool scripture. Like, don't be afraid to ask. And the hard part is a lot of times God isn't just gonna, sometimes he does, sometimes you'll get an answer and things will happen and that helps our faith grow. But then I think sometimes he likes to let us struggle with it because that's how we really learn.
Yeah, that's where the refiner's fire is. That's where the biggest growth comes.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why to me, like I said, I feel like faith is always a journey where we're continuing to progress. I feel like there's always new lessons for him to teach us. And maybe sometimes we have to learn lessons more than one time.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Those are just some of the things that I learned. We are going to stop there for now. Thanks so much for listening. As always, we'd love if you take a minute to give us a rating and review. And also, don't forget that we'd love to hear your questions. You can find links to our amateur advice doc in the show notes. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at THHpod. Thank you.